Hey everybody, Rob from Rob's Game Group here, and I'm back with another video. And this time I want to talk to you about a little something. And that little something, I mean, it's going to be micro. By micro, I mean Micro Chapbooks RPG. And why you may want to pick some of them up. So, let me start by saying that I started this channel years ago, but I shut it down, didn't really do anything with it for a couple of years, and then last April I restarted this channel. I dumped most of the old videos of live gameplay for various reasons, but then when I restarted the channel, I didn't really go at it with doing the aspect of live play anymore. I wanted to do these kind of videos where I just kind of talk with you, the what I consider the extended community here through YouTube. And something that didn't dawn on me early on, but it did later, in fact just a couple of months ago, is that because of doing this channel, I got in the mindset of always looking for new content. And everything is content. But because I started doing that, it led me to investigate and look into games that I otherwise may never have looked at. I love my Savage Worlds, I love my Call of Cthulhu, I love my Palladium stuff, I love Aliens, I love my old school Star Wars. But I obviously needed more than just that content. So I started looking other places at other games that might interest me. And it really began with Jody over at Questwise and Eric at Bloat Games talking about Dark Places and Demogorgons, which is still in the pipeline. I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm just waiting until I can order all of it at one time, which I can't do at the moment. But when I can, I'm going to just get it all. I'll do an unboxing and then review their books because I'm really excited to play around with their game. But through looking at that, it started leading me through recommendations on Amazon and YouTube to look at other games. It's how I found out about OSRs and the retro clones of old fantasy role-playing games like D&D. And it's how I found Basic Fantasy, which I absolutely love. That is my go-to for fantasy gaming, period, now. And not everything is a retro clone, because I also found things like Those Dark Places. And I think I have my copy of Jonathan Hicks did Those Dark Places, which is a fantastic game. Right up my alley. But I have found plenty more. And in those plenty more that I have found, I started seeing a lot of ads and not so many videos, but a lot of ads on Amazon for micro chapbook RPGs. And if you get a chance, if you're interested after watching this video, I highly suggest going on Amazon and looking through or Drive Through RPG, the tons and tons of these that they have available. There are just so many. They kind of remind me of the thrill that I used to get as a kid from the Choose Your Own Adventure or Endless Quest books from D&D, which I have sought out some of those recently, and especially the Endless Quest from D&D, the original, not the new ones they did. But those originals some of those are, whew, more expensive than I'm going to be able to buy. So I kind of just shoved that to the back burner. But then I kept seeing this stuff about the micro chapbook RPG, and it is a solo adventure RPG initially. And so I figured, I'll get a couple of them. These things look really cool and check them out. So they may not actually be old school like the Choose Your Own Adventures or Endless Quest, but they have that same feeling to them because of the way they're designed, the artwork that's used with them, and so on and so forth. I'll get into some of that today. So you can get a lot of different types of them. The production on them is really good quality. And I think a lot of these are free on DriveThruRPG if you just want the PDF version too. But if you buy them off Amazon, they're like $4 to $7. So, you know, not super expensive. But they have, it's just that old black and white art. I'm just going to show you a few of them out of here. This one, I really like it. I like that style. It feels very old school. And I dig that. Goblins. Get past them. There's some more. Just a dungeon door. And there we go. So that's just out of this book. There's some really great old school art in there. I apologize for pausing the video a couple of times here, but I have some seriously bad sinus issues, and it is raining here today in Georgia. It's a rainy day in Georgia, and that does not help the situation at all. Excuse me. So the way these are designed, you create a character. The rules are very light, they're very fast, and all the books come with at least the basic rules in it to play it. But you create a character and you play them through scenarios, and the rules generate a dungeon for you to go into and fight it out. Like in this one in particular, this is the Deluxe Scenario Collection, and it collects numbers 1 through 5 of the individually released micro chapbooks that they did with some updates. So it's got 5 scenarios in here. And which scenarios does it have? Let's see. There's the Skeleton Cavern, which I played that one last night. And then it has Goblin Horde, which is scenario 2. Scenario 3, House of Vermin. Scenario 4, which is Castle of the Dead. And scenario 5, which is Manor of Blood. Now, these collections like this, this is obviously, each book is themed, like this is fantasy, but each book is themed, and they're like, these are just 5 random scenarios. You can play them however you want to. You don't necessarily, they're not a campaign. You can pick and choose which ones you want to play or what order you want to play them in. And they have a lot of books like this. They also have campaign books that have their own story. Like this is not like this is Hammer and Cross, and this is a deluxe version, which is a much thicker version. I think this one was $6 or $7, but it has the complete rules, the deluxe edition rules in here. So I mean, you've got everything. In both books, tell you how to like level up. This goes into a little more detail, has a little bit bigger variety of weapons and armor and so on and so forth. But each one also has different character classes and stuff too. Like this one has like fighter, let's see, fighter, wizard, bard, and ranger. And it's fantasy. This is Earth, Gothic, horror, Victorian era. And so you don't have races in this one. In this one you have your classes, which are soldier, which is kind of like your fighter. Alright, and then you have a hunter, a doctor/nurse, or a priest/nun. And then instead of races, you have orders that they can belong to. The Order of the Hammer, the Order of the Dagger, the Order of the Cross, or the Order of the Sun. and each one of those gives you a bonus as your race would from a fantasy one, because you don't change your race in this, you're playing all humans. They can be played by yourself. It only takes a couple of minutes. Literally, the rules are only a few pages. Or they can be played with a GM. You can do it online. You can do it in person. And I think stuff like this has really become popular thanks to COVID and the lockdowns and a lot of people not being able to get together with their groups and play. But another use that I would like to point out that you can use these for is you can use them for inspiration in your own RPGs. They give you a basic scenario setup and a way to generate a dungeon or a map or a castle or whatever that your heroes are adventuring through. And especially for OSRs, old school role-playing games, these are great. Fantastic inspiration. This is 5 scenarios right here that you could take and map out, stock your dungeon and everything from this book. You just use the stats for the monsters from whatever OSR you're playing. They have a ton of these as far as genres go. They have fantasy, they have modern horror, they have gothic horror, they have sci-fi, cyberpunk, Old West, Weird West, Cthulhu, zombie apocalypse, mutants, and more. There's just tons of them. And the cool thing about that is they're all interchangeable, and they tell you in the back of each one, like this one, Hammer and Cross, which is based off of the old Hammer horror movies, basically, and I love those. Adds a new facet into it, a new aspect called faith, which is only used if you're playing Hammer and Cross. And it just tells you if you're playing characters from Hammer and Cross, if you take them and go play them in a fantasy game, you just ignore the faith. That is it. And it's great that you can intermix them, because you could take sci-fi characters and play them in Victorian era horror, gothic horror if you wanted to, I guess. But they're a great way to kill time. They're a great way to, if you just want to sit and play, you don't have anybody to play with, they're fantastic. They don't take up a lot of room. I'm going to go over what you need to play it here in just a second. But my primary thing that I like these for is I've been reading through these and I'm like, oh man, there's just so many adventure ideas in these little chapbooks. And they can be used for basic fantasy or sci-fi role-playing games that I'm going to run. And that's just fantastic. So aside from the book, what do you need to play? Not a lot. So you need some scrap paper. Pretty sure we all have that already. You can take that same scrap paper and make you a character sheet on it, because the character sheet's not very deep. I did mine on my index cards. This is a blank one. I just wrote everything out in pen so I could fill it out later. But this is Davin Blackwater, my human fighter for Micro Chapbook Fantasy. I played him. He's the one that I played through last night. The game is very expandable. You can add your own house rules, which I added a few of my own for playing multiple characters at one time. So either put them in your notebook or get you some index cards to make some characters on. You need some graph paper, which shouldn't be hard to get either. This is because your dungeon is going, or your castle, or whatever you're adventuring in, is going to be different every time you play, because everything is randomly generated. You need a whopping 2 6-sided dice. You need a pencil. And that's really it. The only other thing I use these life trackers that I have. And these are fantastic. They're made by Meeple's Woodshop. Is it Woodshop? Yes, Meeple's Woodworking. It's a local guy here in the town I live in. He has a company that makes stuff like this for products for gaming. and these are great. I love them. You can actually get cardboard ones off of Amazon that are pretty cheap. I like to support local guys when I can, so that's why I've been getting these. They have an Etsy store. I'll try to remember to put a link in there for it. You don't have to have these. You can do everything on scratch paper. I just like using them, and my wife got me a couple of them for Christmas. So, but yeah, that's dice, pencil, the book, some scrap paper and graph paper, and that's all you need. I have test played it out with using a grid and drawing everything out and putting miniatures on the table and everything, and though it looks cool, it's actually more time consuming to do it like that, especially when you're the only player. So generally just using the graph paper works really good. Another thing you can do is if you want to do an RPG and you've only got one friend or two friends that show up and you don't feel like pulling out your basic fantasy or your D&D or whatever because you don't have a full party, these are great. Let them make up a character, and it gives you guidance in each book on how to game master it and just run them through the adventures and let them map everything out and fight stuff. So that's fantastic as well. These are really, really good. I've only got a couple of them. I intend to pick more up because I've been very pleased with them so far. They have a Facebook group that I will try to put in the description down here that you can check out. And yeah, so if you're looking for a role-playing game that you can play by yourself, or a role-playing game that's going to give you tons of cheap scenario ideas, or just something you can play with one other player, you get a lot of versatility out of these for $4 to $7. I'll do some more in-depth reviews on them, like book by book, as I get them, but this is just kind of an overall video because I did notice there wasn't a lot of overall videos about Micro Chapbook RPG, just discussing what it is and how to get involved in it. There's some actual play, but that's pretty much it. So I wanted to put a video out there talking about it, making people aware of it, and then I will go in and do, like, maybe I'll do a video specifically on the adventures that are in here. I'll probably most definitely do one on Hammer and Cross, and then any other ones I get my hands on. That's pretty much it for that. If you would like to interact more with me, or you have any questions about Micro Chapbook that I can answer, you can find me on Facebook at Rob's Game Group, all one word. And if you enjoy this video or these types of videos, then please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell, and by all means, thumbs up the video. That is all I have for right now. Until next time, good gaming and good luck.